Hey guys. I feel like I'm exactly on time. I'm gonna give it 30 seconds before we get started, but just get some people some time to hop on. Hello. How are you guys doing? Okay, so the topic today is why my success is driving some people insane and what the conservative community can learn from it. So first off, this is not a negative video. I literally am just too happy and have so much positive energy flowing that I couldn't fake negativity right now, even if I wanted to. But there's a really interesting dynamic that's playing out that I've been really excited to sort of think about and marinate on and come to some conclusions on. So obviously a lot of you guys have been really kind and reaching out to me and Charlie Kirk and telling us that there are some conservatives who are making videos about us or tweeting about us or turning their cheek on what we're doing. There are attacks against me, attacks against Charlie, attacks against Kanye West, attacks against Turning Point USA, all of which, just so you guys know, does not affect us whatsoever. So don't feel like you have to go into a battle zone defending what's going on. And even though we really appreciate the heart of you guys being willing to do that. But there is a lesson here. So one of the things that I found really particularly fascinating when I was watching Charlie Kirk on stage one day is he was answering a question about socialism. And obviously, at Turning Point, we're really against socialism. And we talk about why free markets is so important. And he was asked to describe at the core of a socialist argument, what is a socialist? And he said a sentence, which is that at the core of a socialist is a narcissistic, fundamentally unhappy human being who resents the success of others because they were unable to get that success for themselves. And originally, nobody was really talking about Turning Point. No one was talking about Charlie Kirk. No one was talking about Candace Owens. But all of a sudden, we're 2 weeks post Kanye tweet, and everyone has lost their mind. So it begs the question, is there a secret socialist inside of all of us? Are we all capable of switching that, flipping that switch and sort of resorting into what might just be a human characteristic, right? Jealousy, envy, realizing that your life may not be in a position that's as big as somebody else's and making you bitter and upset toward that person. But ultimately, that upset and that bitterness is really a commentary on yourself. You feel that you deserve, this is a socialist argument, you deserve what somebody else has. You feel that you should have been the person at the forefront of the movement or of a conversation or in the room with somebody. So it turns you into a bitter human being. So what we're seeing, on display here from some people are people whose careers have not taken off in terms of the conservative movement. You'll note that some of the greatest conservative thinkers regarding which there are many way above me, obviously. I think of, Jordan Peterson, who may not identify himself as a conservative, but his ideas are definitely would be labeled as such within, the American spectrum of politics. And he has he's never done a video attacking anyone, right? That's not his brand. And he's been tremendously successful largely because of that, because he's attacking an issue. What we're talking about here is what we're discovering is that within the conservative movement, there are people that are either trying to push the movement forward, which is great, but there are also people that are egocentric, and the argument becomes about them. It becomes about their careers, about them being at the forefront of change, which is problematic for a lot of reasons. The first is that your career will never get far if your career is about somebody else's. That's not a career whatsoever. That's just called being a fan, right? Even if you spend all your time and your energy making commentary or making videos or commenting under videos about somebody else, you're not investing that time in yourself, right? So that is first off the advice. I have no ill will towards anybody. I think even people that have ill will towards me, I just wish that they found a better use of their time. They're not able to study and understand that one thing that Charlie and I have done consistently is we've worked really hard and we haven't leveled any attacks against anybody. Even in moments where I perhaps had an opinion about somebody when they became a topic of the day, I haven't done it. I haven't spoken about them because my brand was defined from the beginning. I want to wake up the Black community. I think the second thing, and this is a parallel that we should be talking about in drawing, is what's happening right now in the Black community can't be stopped. Your opinion about Candace Owens is not going to stop it. In many ways, it only helps it because you're being a vocalist for me. You're talking about me, which gets other people wanting to explore who Candace Owens is, why she's so controversial. In many ways, for Charlie Kirk and I, what these people provide to us is markers. They let us know where we're at, right? You can judge the success of somebody by their haters. People don't hunt small deer. So we've been really interested, and we've been having sort of this intellectual dialogue about this. I think for a lot of these people, if I could give them a piece of advice that they'd be willing to hear it, is just, not to intellectually stump yourself. A lot of these people are coming up with these intellectually bankrupt opinions that are, again, ultimately hurting their career, because if it's not based in realism, if it's not based in something that's logical, it's not going to ever gel well in the conservative community. The conservative community loves logic, they love learning, they love growth, they love intellectual debate. And if at the core of your intellectual debate is jealousy, if at the core of your intellectual debate or theory is an egotistical human being, it's not ever going to float. I think I saw that some people were adding me saying that Turning Point, or I am, perhaps because I target the Black community, that I'm engaging in identity politics. That is an example of something, an opinion that is held that is just intellectually bankrupt. First and foremost, we are not fighting to get rid of identity. We like identity. I like being Black. I like being a woman. I'm not offended if a bunch of women that are pregnant want to meet and discuss their first trimester. That's identity. That's always going to exist. We're not fighting that because we're not communists. The idea that we can't have identity, that by going into a group and saying, I'm Black, you're Black, and let's talk is wrong, is a Marxist argument. Of course there are differences, and we celebrate those differences. Okay, I'm a Black woman, so if I want to host a party with other Black women and talk about Black hair care, that's not identity politics. Subgroups are always going to exist in any society. What we are attacking is people hijacking those identities for their own political interests. So when I get on stage and I speak to Black people because they've been brainwashed into thinking that Charlie Kirk cannot speak to them about the Black community, what I do is I defeat that argument. I say, I recognize you're Black. I recognize that you're a woman. I recognize that you and I have something in common that Charlie Kirk will never experience. But don't allow outside people or don't allow people to hijack that, to hijack your identity and to use it for something that is ultimately evil. That is the political identity. That's what we're fighting. The politics of identity is what we are fighting. But the fact that I go into a group of people as a Black woman, the fact that I meet with Black Lives Matter because they're willing to at least listen to me, is not identity politics. It's foolish to even insinuate that. Again, identity is good. If Jewish people want to get together and have a Holocaust remembrance a ceremony, I would not be attacking that. That is their identity. That is okay. It is okay to have an identity. It is okay to talk about your identity. It's okay to remember your identity. It's okay to be American. That's what the entire MAGA movement was about, right? Is that we felt that in America we were losing our identity, right? So we wanted to make America great again. We wanted it to be okay to be American without feeling a sense of shame. Right? That the whole MAGA movement was about identity. And we don't ever want to strip that away, lest we end up a collectivist society by not acknowledging that there are some core differences between people. So I hope that clarifies that whole debate, if that ever was a debate. But yeah, so I wanted to just let you guys know that we are not at all bothered by the attacks. We find it interesting. We find it to be a suggestion that perhaps there is a leftist that lives within all of us. That at the same time that we say we hate this, that we hate this label-obsessed culture, how many conservatives did we see instantly jump before Kanye West got out of the gates and label him crazy and label him unstable, to use the exact same tactics that the left has used to silence somebody? You know, he never came out and said, I'm a Republican. He said he loved Donald Trump, and he was attacked by people on our side for that, which is apparently people that are on our side for that. It lets you know that despite the fact that we seem to think that we've got things figured out on the right, that we too make some mistakes, that we ultimately will jump up and use the left's tactics to take somebody down. I find the same similarities happening when people say, Candace, you used to be a liberal. Newsflash, I have been very open and honest about that. But just because I was a liberal doesn't mean that today I can't be a conservative. Maybe you're missing the memo, or you're missing the core thesis of what I say when I go onto these college campuses. I celebrate evolution. I celebrate the right to think freely. I'm allowed to have been a liberal and today to be a conservative. And to people that suggest or try to dig up, components of my past to say that I'm not allowed to be that, at their core, they are leftists. And you have to accept that. They are leftists at their core. That is a leftist argument. The left argued that because Donald Trump once voted Democrat, he could not run as a Republican. The left argued and pulled up that he once was against the Central Park Five. The left used his past. They tried to strap him to his past to tell him that he was not allowed to have a future. That's not going to happen for me. I don't care what anybody has to say about my past, about my family, about what I thought when I was 17 years old. I'm literally seeing arguments that because I had friends that were liberals and I had friends that wrote anti-Trump articles. To keep it real with you guys, I still have friends that are anti-Trump because they're allowed to think differently. I try to sway their opinion. I try to present them with facts. I have family members that are not thrilled about Donald Trump. That does not mean I'm not allowed to, be their family anymore. That's a ridiculous argument. The idea is that we want to change minds, and we can't do that if we create what the left has gotten wrong, which is the idea that unless you are 100% ideologically and intellectually pure, unless you agree with us 100%, then you're kicked out of our club. Conservatism should not be a club. We should not mirror the mistakes that people have done on the left. We have to be very cautious about that, and we should start questioning people that are doing that. We should start questioning people that are trying to turn us into a leftist group, that are trying to say that, because Brandon Tatum used to be on the left, because, by the way, Thomas Sowell used to be on the left. I met and spoke with Secretary Ben Carson yesterday. He used to be on the left. And we celebrate that transformation. We celebrate that moment when we wake up and we understand, wow, I had it wrong. That's a beautiful thing. That transformation is a beautiful thing. And it's not something that I'm ever going to be ashamed of. I think that is the most important thing that I want people to take away from this live stream, is that I'm not ashamed, and to remind them that what is going on in the Black community, it's sort of a moment for every single person to decide what side of history they're going to be on. Because this revolution is not going to be stopped. It's not going to be stopped by an article. It's not going to be stopped by a video. It's happening in real time. You get to decide whether you want to be England or whether you want to be America, whether you want to be the North or whether you want to be the South. But this is happening. And your hate or dislike or your selfish, egocentric ideas about what Candace's career should or should not be doesn't matter. Fundamentally, I think a lot of the reason why I've had so much success is because it was never about Candace Owens. It was always about this movement. I always saw this vision so clearly for the Black community. When I met Charlie Kirk, and we had this moment, this God-given moment in Palm Beach. And I told him what I wanted to do when I said that I had felt tremendous resentment for the fact that I felt used and lied to and abused by the left. I felt that they had taken away effectively 26 years of my life. And that turned me into a passionate advocate. It turned me into a passionate activist. It turned me into what I am today. And I see this finish line so clearly in my head, and I wonder if it's what, people in the MAGA community felt early on when they got behind Trump immediately. I see it clearly, and I know that it's coming, and I know that it can't be stopped. So to the conservative community, I guess the question is, what side of this historical moment are you going to be on? Thank you guys for watching.